Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and tonight I'm joined by Kevin Graham. Kevin, we're going to try and deconstruct Celtic 1, Bodø Glimt 3. We looked at this game before it kicked off. You wanted to get out of it without conceding a goal at home. It didn't go to plan, as we said at half-time. We spoke about potentially making changes. We spoke about persevering for 10-15 minutes. We didn't get the 10-15 minutes, did we? Because obviously Bodø Glimt came out and scored yet another goal that, from a Celtic kind of perspective, Kev, was poor. Another poor goal to lose. You just can't make these mistakes or have these lapses at this level because you're going to be punished. And that's exactly what happened to bring it up to 2-0. Talk me through your thoughts on that second goal.
The second goal, Greg Taylor had to buy a ticket to get back in. The big fella absolutely done him. And once the big boy breaks into the box, there's a number of panic with the two centre-halves who just need to try and stop that ball going through. It was a decent ball across. Joe Hart's really got no chance at all. Look, overall, it was a poor second goal. I mean, I'm more annoyed about the third goal. I'm really annoyed about the third goal, losing the ball straight for the kick-off. And obviously it takes a bit of deflection, But we saw it in the League Cup final. Teams are at their most vulnerable just after the score. But we win the ball back and Hatate loses the ball. It's a bad ball in the middle of the park. Taylor deserves to get hung out to dry for that goal. Definitely. Look, we wore our identity like a pair of ill-fitting jeans tonight. They wore their identity like an Armani suit. That's it, bottom line. There's no analysis I need to actually do after that. I saw somebody saying that it was a bad day at the office. It was a horrendous day at the office. I think we actually went into the office, left the toaster on, we've just burnt the place down. But we've still got an identity and we've still got an office.
Yeah, we do. Well,
we've got to trust the process. That was a horrific night. That was a horrific night, performance-wise. Just a performance-wise, nothing absolutely worked. Nothing worked at all. But maybe it just came a wee bit too early for us. Maybe we're a wee bit overconfident. But we've got an identity, and that's what I'm taking out of this. We've got an identity, and I mean, Maeda scored, and you're like that. Yes, that's us back in this game. Take the deep breath, get the roar for the crowd, and give them a last 15 minutes that they didn't want to handle. But then just to lose that after 30 seconds is probably more disappointing. That 30 seconds is probably more disappointment than the whole of the 90 minutes, and truthfully.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that third goal, Kev, it completely changes the outlook going into next week's game. I think when we spoke at the beginning of the game, for anyone who never tuned into the pre-match, we were speaking about the fact that, yes, if you rewind 7 months to the game against Midtjylland, which was the first qualifier, the first competitive game under Ange Postecoglou, never in our wildest dreams would we have envisaged that we would still be in Europe in the middle of February. So we take all that into consideration, Kev. Overconfident, I don't think Celtic as a club, as a team rather, would have been overconfident because of the way Ange Postecoglou is. I mean, you've seen what he was like against Wraith Rovers when he didn't want to pass the ball back and he thought we were too passive. He's going to be absolutely raging this evening, I'm sure, with that performance, because it wasn't the Celtic that we have watched and enjoyed over the excellent domestic run that we've enjoyed in the last few months. I'm keen to get the thoughts of the viewers on the screen so that we can discuss them, Kev. We're over 1,000 strong tonight. Sean Barlow, I'm gutted, but not going to start picking on players because the 2 to 3 months we have been brilliant. Yeah, we have. Do you think because the team are in pre-season, that's how we thought we should win? Well, I think going into the game, I've seen a certain narrative, and some of the questions that were kind of angled at Ange, Kev, were such that, we should expect to win this. I don't think Ange had that attitude. Watching the Acsom Bulletin, as I do when I'm not on it every single day, I don't think generally the contributors this week were lax around the opponents. We realise that they're a different team from the one that beat Roma 6-1, absolutely. But in terms of the identity that you keep talking about, Kev, that's why that's so important. You lose a player, you bring in another player, and you still play the same way with the same philosophy, the same structure, the same shape. And I think that's obviously bore fruit for Bodø Glimt tonight. But I've got to say, though, we try to stick to our identity and the way that we play the game. But when it's not working, what do you do? And I don't mean completely rip it up and start again or go to plan B. What you try to do, I think, is you try to make an impact off the bench. Do you think that any of the substitutes made that impact that you would expect?
No. In one word, no. The subs did the work.
Hatate? I think Hatate did pretty well.
No, because the game ended up 3-1. They came on at 2-0. We got ourselves back in it at 2-1. We had that horrific 30 seconds. Did the subs have the impact that we want? No. I think Bodo's game plan completely changed as soon as they went 2-0 up. And we just sort of huffed and puffed after that and didn't really do nothing after that. Nothing really worked tonight. Matt O'Reilly had a quiet second half as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you start going through that team,
Jota's another one. Didn't have his best night tonight.
There was so many players just didn't turn up tonight. Just completely didn't turn up tonight, and that's disappointing. It is really disappointing. But as Sean rightly says, we've been utterly dominant domestically for the last 2 months. We've got to take that as a positive. We've maybe just got to actually suck it in and give, by the way, Europe's just maybe a game too far for us. And that is our worst performance in Europe this season. By a bit of a long shot. Even we weren't even that bad when Leverkusen scalped us 4-0. Because we actually created chances that night. Tonight, I think you can by your notes. I never took any notes. 71 minutes, I think, before we made their goalkeeper make a save, and it was Jota's shot. So it's a horrible night that can get hanged up there with Cluj, Copenhagen, Ferencváros. But the difference is we're on the right direction this time, I think. They games were not just slap in the face going, we're not going anywhere, this is always going to happen. Tonight, I think we're early enough on the journey just to brush it down and go, right, if we keep on going the way that we're going, then it should be okay. But what I will actually say is we will have many other games like that when the system just doesn't work. And we've maybe just got to get used to it.
What you were saying there about keeping notes, you're absolutely right. Every single game since we started live streaming is in a book somewhere. And I'll tell you what, last season didn't make for good reading, Kev. But I don't feel the same this evening. Despite the poor performance, despite the defeat, the disappointment that always surrounds a European defeat where you kind of go out with a whimper, and I felt that we did a wee bit. We got that wee bit of hope when we pulled the goal back, but as you say, it was short-lived, and then Bodø Glimt are managing that game right down to the death. I think that the difference, as you say, is we do have a belief in the system that's getting played. We know that the guys who were off their game tonight, Jota, Rogic to name but two, we know what they're capable of. We know that 99 games out of 100 that we've seen him play, it's not going to be that performance that we've seen tonight. Now, just for his name alone, Postecoglou Junior Malone, Celtic got what they deserved out of tonight's game. Absolutely nothing. I think based on the performance, it's going to be hard to disagree with that. Huffed and puffed says Lucky 15 Voodoo, beat with the same style we play. It's an interesting one when you come up against a team that plays the same style. It's not something we're used to domestically, Kev. Have we learned a lesson from that tonight? What do we take from tonight? Always try and take something, even when we come away with nothing. You've got to take something from tonight. What can we actually take away from that defeat?
What we can actually take for tonight is we scored a beautiful goal. It was a great goal. It was what a header by Maiden. What a cross. Yeah, it was a great ball by Ivanovic. An absolutely brilliant ball. I'll take that away. I'll take away Matt O'Reilly's first half. Matt O'Reilly's first half was absolutely fantastic. But I'll also take away that the fact is that the yellow and black team, who are quite rightly having a party at Celtic Park at the moment, showed us how it can be done in Europe. Showed us how that style can work in Europe. And we've seen how that style can work in Europe. And I mean, we have got to be positive. And this was one of the things that, we're fans. We get carried away with ourselves. We always get carried away with ourselves. And sometimes just having a wee tug of the jersey back, go, by the way, we're running before we can walk here, eh? And I think that's a nice. I think it's a nice wee tug of the jersey for me to actually bring us back, doing a wee bit and go, this team's still work in progress. There's still areas of this team where we can make improvements, where Ange Postecoglou will see we can make improvements. And there's also guys in this team, when we get to maybe at this point next year, will only be anywhere near that team.
Right.
And that's something that we've got to consider as well.
Let's talk about that then, Kev, because that's the nature of some of the comments that are coming in. Let's start with Chancellor. And this isn't a post-match where we really want to dig out loads of players and single them out for criticism. But I think sometimes you get to a point like tonight where you're at a level. So let's be completely realistic here. We're at the third tier of European football tonight. We're playing a very well-run club, a very well-drilled team. They've won 2 Norwegian titles on the bounce. And obviously, whenever a big offer comes in for one of their star players, they have to sell them and then rebuild. But as you say, they played with a certain style and a certain system that worked, certainly tonight. Played us at our own game, but played it better. When we're at that level, when we're not at the elite European level tonight, and you sometimes see a player like Taylor, who Chancellor's picked out specifically there, you do sometimes question, and I don't know if this is post-match emotion from a Celtic fan, Kev, you sometimes question if they can make that step up, because there's plenty of Acsom contributors who stand up for Taylor time and time again. We've had the discussion before the game about a hierarchy when you're looking at the fullbacks and the fact that Juranovic and Taylor are the first choice fullbacks. Then you see him tonight, and he does look a wee bit out of his depth. And if it's a one-off, because let's be honest, Jota didn't play well, Rogic didn't play well, players that you normally could hang your coat on and say they're going to put in a performance tonight, they were completely off it. But Taylor does seem to struggle to up his game to the European level. Do you think that's fair to say, Kev? Yes.
And I think I love Greg Taylor. I think he is the best left back at the club, and maybe that says a lot about the quality of left back at the clubs. I bummed up our fullbacks earlier on, and I'm not going to back that down. Taylor has struggled in Europe. I'm just thinking he was probably involved in Copenhagen. He was involved in Midtjylland at the start of the season. He's probably been involved in quite a few of the disappointing nights that we've had. That we've had at Celtic Park in Europe. So your obvious answer is then, well, there maybe is the need to upgrade at the left back area, or the need to actually hope Scales progresses and to be the first choice left back. It's very, very clear. It's very, very clear at this precise moment in time that Ange Postecoglou believes that Greg Taylor's the best option. Is the best option at left back, and that might change over the next 6 months. That might change over the next 6 months. It might change over the next year. Who knows? That they'll maybe have a look at the left back area in the summer. That could be one of those areas that they actually do look at. Yes, I think they would. The midfield for me, I think we've got a decent. I think they've got a decent enough midfield. The midfield was poor tonight. The midfield was really, really poor tonight. Apart from Matt O'Reilly, only gets. Matt O'Reilly's the only one that gets pass marks for me. We've seen too much promise for this side. There is promise in this side, but we're far, far away from being the finished article. And sometimes nights like tonight just go, you just brush it off and go, let's hope we get there soon.
I think what does happen, certainly, Kevin, is when you're hearing a manager talking about succeeding in Europe, and that's some of the chat we've had from Ange Postecoglou. He's a type of character, and we spoke about this earlier on, Natasha and I, that when he manages Australia in the World Cup finals, he believes he can win the World Cup. I mean, that's his words. That was his belief when he went into that tournament. So when he enters European competition, possibly not the Champions League due to the state we were in personnel-wise at the beginning of this campaign, but when he enters this third-tier European competition, he believes that he can win it. He believes that he can go toe-to-toe with any club in this competition. And so we speak about that. Is that getting carried away, or is that just somebody with a vision and ambition, something that I think has been sadly lacking from the club, Kev? We spoke time and time again, what are the club's European ambitions? Do you even still know? Because we've heard a fair bit from Ange, we don't really hear that from the club. When was the last time we heard any manager coming out and saying that, I actually believe that we can make an impression in Europe? I'm enthused to hear that kind of chat. I'm a very optimistic person by nature, despite what some people in the comments might think. And I'm going to bring this up. Elfin Priest, listen, let's run through any of these comments. It's not about having an argument. We're all Celtic fans in here, or we should be. Mon then, Paul, let's hear how our centre-backs can't ever be criticised because we've conceded the least in the mighty SPFL. Well, the fact of the matter is we have, but I wouldn't go as far to say that our centre-backs can't be criticised. I think, if we run through this team at some point during this season, Kev, Starfelt's come in for criticism. I don't think Carter Vickers has come in for much criticism. His worst game in a Celtic jersey was probably against Wraith Rovers, but we still won a canter and we were never under any issue or pressure during that game. Taylor's came in for a fair bit of criticism. I think Ralston's had a coming-of-age season and it's difficult to criticise him now. Juranovic has shown his class. So I don't think anyone's beyond criticism, Kev, but domestically, that defence is the best in Scotland. I mean, that's just a fact when you look at the goals against record. You can't deny that. Are they good enough to play at this level? I think we said at half-time that the small lapses that often you can get away with, let's say on Sunday, there's a lapse in concentration by Greg Taylor. Often we'll win the ball back. Often Captain and Carter Vickers will shore it up and it won't result in a goal being conceded. That's just the levels that you're playing at when you take that step up to Europe, Kev. So I don't think anyone's beyond criticism. If there's any tinkering to be done with this team, I think we'll still be looking at the defence, despite the fact that we've got the best defensive record in Scotland. Left back, could we have an upgrade on Greg Taylor? I think we probably could, because Juranovic is an upgrade on Ralston, isn't he? Centre half, is Starfelt still, is the jury still out on Starfelt? I think a lot of Celtic fans reckon it probably is, Kev. But, we've spent £4.5 million on the guy and he's built up a relationship and a defensive relationship with Cameron Carter-Vickers that I think Ange Postecoglou believes in. Otherwise, he'd drop him for Welsh or he would bring in Julien in the coming weeks. So, no, they're not beyond criticism, but I think we could and probably will do better within the next transfer window or another transfer window after that. Is that a fair comment?
It is a fair comment, and I think Ange Postecoglou has made that quite clear that this team is nowhere near the level he wants this team to be, and he'll be extremely disappointed tonight. But he will be the type of guy that'll learn for it, and he will hope that his players will learn for it, and he probably finds out more about his players on nights like this where things don't work. And there's lapses of concentration and that of who he can trust. But the fact of the matter is, I says in the post-match, we've got every domestic game is now a cup final. Leading in, we had a bit of a breather tonight. I was a bit calm going into tonight's game. Did I maybe underestimate the magnitude of this time? Maybe. I don't know. But we've got how many cup finals we got left? Every domestic game is now a cup final.
Yes,
and we're going to need guys like Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Greg Taylor, Liam Scales, Anthony Ralston. We're going to need the whole squad to actually step up, and we can't let this actually affect us. And as we're actually saying, it's only half time. It is only half time in this tie, and who knows what can happen. Football's a strange game. Football's an utterly strange game, and we might have learned for it tonight, and we might be sitting here in a week's time actually talking about a famous comeback victory. Who knows? But at this precise moment in time, it seems very, very difficult that we'll turn this round.
We'll score away. We'll score away from home, Kev. We'll score against that team away from home. I mean, next week I'm not sure yet who's going to be covering the game. I'll certainly be covering it. We have representation. Acsom will be at the game. Natasha will be at the game as well. Will we score? I think we will. And then that blows the thing wide open at that stage. And I think, when you look at the games that we played away from home in Europe, we've shown that we can go away and score away from home, Kev. I'm hearing a lot of comments here saying it was a wake-up call. Yeah, potentially it is, but that may influence the performance in the second leg. Neil Lennon comes in to see all the Taylor comments, yet Jota and most of the team were no better. I think we mentioned Jota. I mean, I don't think Abada had a great game. Tom Rogic was poor. So, yeah, some of your star performers, but I've thought this for most of the season, Kev, we seem to have pockets of star performers. So, for a period, you've got Abada and Jota firing on all cylinders. For another period, Kyogo was outstanding. And then you start looking at Hatate's performances, Tom, Rogic's performances, Matt O'Reilly's performances. Imagine all those 6 players firing on all cylinders. We've not seen that yet. When it does happen, and invariably it will happen, that's a frightening prospect. Even at this level, we've not seen it domestic. We've not seen it at all, but we do have the talent within that squad. Are there any of the players who were off form tonight that you've got any concerns about? I mean, that's Tom Rogic now. Had a couple of poor performances in a row. Is it a concern? Do you rest him? Do you bring Hatate back in for Dundee?
I think Rogic is a concern. As you say, against Raith Rovers, he was a bit poor. I think as well, if you're actually looking at it, I think Hatate over the last couple of games is maybe the adrenaline that's got him through the first couple of weeks at Celtic has made him look like an utter fantastic player, but sometimes he maybe needs to take that wee step back. I think he maybe needs to take that wee step back, maybe. I think we need to... The 2 strikers, I mean, Maeda scored the goal. Maeda scored. So you could probably say, like, he's done his job. Abada never done nothing tonight. You could go through every single one of them and go, well, none of them really get past marks tonight. So it's very, very difficult to actually just go like that. Tonight, as I says, we looked very, very uncomfortable in our identity. It didn't seem to fit us tonight, which is the first time in a couple of months that's actually looked the way. And you just need to put it down as a bad night at the office. We really need to. Or we really need to just hope that it's just a bad night at the office. Well, we just suddenly been sell a couple of pops over the last month. No, I don't think we have, but no,
I don't think we have, Kev. We're sitting top of the league. We were on a cracking run. A couple of bad performances back to back. I think probably the second half against Aberdeen as well. So it's maybe 2.5 bad performances that we've had over the last few weeks. We've come through the league and the cup game unscathed. So domestically, it's not made any blind bit of difference. But in Europe, it's in the balance. When we scored, though, Kev, that wasn't a consolation goal. That was us back in the game. I know that they've gone up the park and scored, but it showed what we can do. It showed that we could cut through this side and how easy actually it was to score that goal. It was quite a simple cross-in, header, goal. Back in the game, we just couldn't maintain the concentration levels that are required at any level in football. Like you said, you brought up the League Cup final. Obviously, we were the victors on that occasion. But tonight, it's hard to take because you go away from that game at 2-1 and you've got complete belief that you can go to Norway and get through this tie. It's in the balance at the moment. I'm not going to overreact. There's no knee-jerk at the end of this game, I've got to say. But let's look ahead to Dundee, Kev. Dundee, they're a team that, they've got a couple of results back-to-back. They're still in the Scottish Cup. But they made a decision, like Hibs and like Aberdeen, to change their manager. So Mark McGee has gone down like a lead balloon amongst the Dundee fans, but Mark McGee will be the manager at the weekend. He's a guy who's managed over 1,000 games. He'll remind you of that. It seems all a bit cloak and dagger, the way that it's happened, the way that, we know the connection between McGee and Strachan in at Dundee. We're looking ahead there on Sunday, though, and I still fully believe, Kev, that we'll go in there and we'll win convincingly against Dundee at the weekend. Is there anything you've seen against Raith Rovers or tonight that concerns you getting back into the domestic game? We're sitting top of the league.
No, not in the domestic game, not at all. Not at all. As you say, there's certain things you can get away with in the domestic game that you can't get away with in Europe, especially against a side who were well worth their victory tonight. Actually, well worth it.
There's people. Sorry, Kev. There are a few people saying we've been beaten for a pub team tonight. I do not subscribe to that. That's a very, very good sign. I mean, listen, they're the champions in Norway. We brought Ronny Deila in because of his success in that same division. So I don't subscribe to the fact that team are below par. I think they're a very well drilled side. They've got a game plan, and they beat us at our own game tonight. They've done really well tonight. They
did beat us at our own game. And bizarrely enough, I'm actually taking a bit of confidence at the fact that they beat us at our own game, because it shows what you can do with if you actually mould a decent team. And I think we're on the way to moulding a decent team. And this is the first. Me and Brian used to speak about it taking a couple of sore faces. And this is a sore face tonight. That is a sore face, and there's no two ways about it. But as always with football, you've got another game to bounce back to. You've got another game to bounce back to. And that game's on Sunday against Dundee at Celtic Park, and it's a cup final. We need to bounce back. We can't wallow about feeling sorry for ourselves. We've got to go back into that stadium, roar that team on, and make sure that team stays top of the league by the time we get to 5 o'clock on Sunday night.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing that we can do as supporters.
Yeah, it is. And we're being told by my car that our predictions are always ridiculous. I didn't make a prediction tonight, I don't think, score-wise. I think you said 2-0. 2-0?
I said 2 or 3-0, honey. But, hey.
It's great with hindsight, Kev. It's great after the game. It's great after the game to say that we've got ridiculous score predictions. I think we've got a few right this season, to be honest with you.
That's why my bookies account is always empty.
Yeah, and if you do want to get involved in that, then look at our sponsor, top right of the screen, Who Knows Wins. Acsom has now been running for 5 years. We're coming up to our 1000th episode. Everything we do is absolutely free of charge, but it does mean that sponsorship and merchandise and things like that are a massive part of making this a success. So this is all about an app that you can download. Have a look at the description underneath the video, and you'll be able to download that. On a Saturday, there is a particular league that is set up called Pick 10, and unlike accumulators, you don't need to get every prediction correct. So maybe Kevin and I will be pretty good at this game then, just more right predictions than anyone else within the league to win the top spot and the biggest prizes, which means you're going to win bragging rights between your mates, and the real money that's up for grabs will be yours. Play against your mates, predicting fixtures in private leagues, or against a bigger community in the public leagues as well. You've got to be 18 or above, of course. Please gamble responsibly. Have a look at the Who Knows Wins website and click on the link underneath this particular video to get involved. The sponsorship, Kev, we've had a couple of sponsors over the years, but pretty chuffed with this one, I've got to say. Looking forward to working with them in the future. And if I was to predict the score, which is something I always ask my guests to do on Sunday, I'm going to say that Celtic will win by 3 clear goals on Sunday. I don't take anything with any kind of form of complacency, but when we play the way we can play, Kev, we can beat teams like Dundee without any issue.
Yes, and again, if you wanted to actually swim in a narrative that a lot of Celtic fans have had over the years, that it's a Scottish game that holds us back, but then our main rivals had an absolutely fantastic result and performance in Europe tonight. So it just shows if you get it right on the night, then it can actually happen. I'm not worried domestically. I'm really not worried domestically. I am gutted, absolutely gutted tonight. It's quite tough to come on straight after, which is quite a sore defeat. But overall, there's nothing. There's no need yet. There's nothing to actually be really, really worried about. And even if we actually drop points going forward and we maybe didn't win the league, we're on a journey here and it's only at the start. And the last 2 months have been utterly fantastic. And it shows what we can actually do under Ange Postecoglou. And for me, it's only going to get better. And I love Postecoglou actually saying he wanted to win the World Cup. He wanted to, like when he was with Australia, he thought he could win this competition. I want that guy in charge of my football club and installing that into the players. There's been a couple of guys in the comments, he did say it's a wake-up call. So that's maybe a wee message to the dressing room, and I'll trust Ange completely 100%. If he says it's a wake-up call, it is a wake-up call. And I think it's a wake-up call to everybody, and I did actually, and I think I did say that earlier on. I called it a wee tug of the jersey. That's what it is for me. It's a wee tug of the jersey that we're trying to get into a pair of skinny jeans when we've still got a 36 waist.
Well, Kev, there's a few people probably within the comment section looking at you thinking, you cheeky so-and-so. However, I like your analogies, Kev. A wake-up call, yes, but we are still doing a lot right. You just got to look at the league table. We move on to Sunday. It's Dundee. It's at home. I will not be on the match day coverage, but we will be covering the game as we always do. Get yourself onto the YouTube channel, subscribe to it. We've got huge content. It's not just about live streams. It's not just about the live stream at 12:30 on a weekday either. We've got big content. We're in Glasgow today talking to Canon Tom White down at St Mary's, the birthplace of Celtic. Kev, that video will be with you very, very soon. We were looking at the Angora Moore Memorial out in the garden. We're looking at the mosaic that was installed for the 125th anniversary of Celtic. Beautiful place. The Peterhausen painting, of course, the brother Wilfred, gorgeous. And we had a wee chat with Karen and Tom about sectarianism that still exists and bigotry that still exists towards predominantly Irish Catholics in Glasgow. And he's been a victim of that as well. So we will actually be sharing some footage of some concerning scenes that took place outside the chapel and outside his home, Kev, because that's where he lives on the day of an Orange Walk as well. So, yeah, very, very interesting for Celtic fans. We will be sharing that on our channel very soon. Get yourself subscribing and click on the link within our description to visit Who Knows Wins, our new sponsor. We look forward to working with them in the future. So, Kev, overall, very disappointing tonight, but we still believe in Ange. We believe in what he's doing, and we move on to Sunday, and hopefully we'll get 3 points against Dundee. So it's not all doom and gloom, is it?
It's not all doom and gloom, not at all. It's always quite difficult to come on to these games. It's always quite difficult to come on to these games after a defeat, especially when you haven't had I think it's something like 17 games where we haven't had a defeat, and it's especially been so disappointing tonight. Like really, from start to finish, we didn't turn up. There's not really that many positives, but we do. But we have positives over the last couple of months. We didn't expect to be in Europe at this point at the start of the season. I wanted to stay in Europe tonight. We're now long odds to actually progress in this tie. Bodø are actually the favourites to go through to this tie, but we've still got a second leg. We still have got a second leg to go. Anything can happen in football. I'm looking forward to the game against Dundee on Sunday. Let's go and give Mark McGee a great welcome and just scud them. Just absolutely scud them.
Kev, if you had gone to Germany tonight and beaten Borussia Dortmund convincingly, would one of the first thoughts in your mind be I better go into a Rangers podcast and make comments on it? I think that absolutely absurd. Come on, lads, get a life. This is all about Celtic. It's all about Celtic.
I would have still been on the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly.
You would have still been trying to get scraped off a ceiling. Somewhere. I
find that behaviour a little bit concerning, lads. So have a wee look at yourself. This is a Celtic state of mind. I'm absolutely thrilled to say that we've been hitting 1,500 plus tonight on the live stream. All your comments are appreciated in the comments field. You're tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, Twitter even. Yes, you are. So thanks very much for getting involved. Remember to subscribe on YouTube. And I've got to say once again, thank you, Kevin Graham, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.